Good afternoon or good morning when this goes out. I appreciate you watching as always. If you find value in this video, consider liking and subscribing, it does help the channel out a lot. I've talked a lot about both legal and illegal migration on this channel into the United Kingdom, into this United Kingdom, and I wanted to discuss it in a bit more detail based on some question time clips from the show this evening. I didn't watch the show, I never watched the show, from the BBC. The reason I don't watch the show is, I've explained this before, the way that the panel and the audience is arranged is based on the parliamentary arithmetic of MPs. It's not based on the votes, and it's not based on the wider population and what we actually think. And it's done specifically to curate the consent for the policies that the government brings in. Say, for example, on tonight's show, you've got the token right-winger, which is Zia Yusuf, which is debatable, the wisdom of him being the right-winger, which we'll get to later in the video. And then you've got the Tory, I think he's a Tory West. Then you've got the Lib Dem, you've got the Labour, and you've got the absolute nutjob that is Zach Polansky. So that's the makeup of the panel. The questions that they go into in this are regarding asylum seekers and we'll get into that in a minute or two as well. So I'm going to play the clips, I'm going to pause in between, and then we'll get to what we need to discuss in a minute.
We have some men in the audience who came over on small boats and are former asylum seekers. So since you mentioned that, let's hear from one of them. So Ashraf, where are you sitting? Ashraf, there you are. Can you just say you came over from Afghanistan on a small boat?
That's the first problem. He's come over on a small boat, not from Afghanistan. If he's come over on a small boat, he's come from France, sweetheart. Get it right. That's the first issue. Why is he still here? Detain, deport. I give zero fucks. To be honest, they're not welcome.
The last 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yes, I come from Afghanistan.
So was the UK where you wanted to claim asylum, or did you try and claim asylum in other countries on the way?
I applied for asylum. I was a refugee and I passed many interview in different countries.
So tell us which country did you try to claim asylum in?
My first interview was in Turkey, and the second was in Macedonia, in Serbia, in Romania, Austria, and recently in Germany.
So, he's gone through 6 separate countries. Let's have a look at the list. He said Turkey, Serbia, Romania, Macedonia, Austria, and Germany. So straight away, we can say that if Austria and Germany have refused him, they are Western European nations. Why are we even entertaining his asylum claim? What is it that Austria and Germany know that we don't know? What makes us so special or so stupid that we're going to accept an asylum claim from people that have been rejected in countries that, according to the leftists, that all wanted us to remain in the European Union, we're so alike, we're so similar with our European neighbours and allies on the continents, that we need to be in a political union with them, that is the EEC and the EU. Why is it that we have to accept their rejects? Why is it that we have to accept them? Alright? It's bull. And then you look at the other countries. Turkey. They've rejected them. Why have Turkey rejected them? What do they know that we don't? Serbia, Romania, Macedonia. Why? This is the major question. If I was running the Home Office, if I was running our immigration policy for the dinghy divers, the illegals, I would want to know specifically why, on what basis have they rejected him? And if they've rejected him, why do I accept him? This is due diligence, this is common sense. He continues. In the question time audience, they had like 6 illegals that have been granted asylum. And I think they've done it to pull up the heartstrings. It's not worked. It really hasn't. This is utterly pathetic. Let's continue and see what else they say.
But that ain't in here.
So you applied for asylum in all those countries, what, and they all turned you down?
These countries just reject me and they didn't accept me.
So what do you say to the woman here who says, why is it the men that are coming? And what about their families?
He doesn't answer, but this is a person in question. When you're fleeing a literal war zone, like the Ukrainians coming over to Britain, the men are barred from leaving. The men are fighting for their country in Ukraine against Russian aggression. That's a war zone. They prohibit the men from leaving and they evacuate the women and children. Same thing happened during World War II, alright? When the Blitz was happening in Liverpool and London and whatnot, the children were evacuated to the countrysides to be protected. That I can understand. When the Hong Kongers came over because of the Chinese aggression, alright, when we handed over Hong Kong back to China, they sent their refugees, so we accepted a lot of refugees because we used to hold Hong Kong, so we have responsibility there. Why are we taking these guys? Alright, where are the women and children? Where are their women and children? Alright? It's not legitimate. It's not legitimate. If you look at Pakistan, which is a Commonwealth nation, they are deporting Afghans back to Afghanistan. Alright? And, side notes, if Pakistan is a safe country, and they are deporting Afghans back to Afghanistan, why is the largest amount of asylum seekers currently being processed in our United Kingdom? Why are they from Pakistan? Again, there's no joined up thinking at all. If I was working in the Home Office, I'd be like, all of these people that are trying to claim asylum from Pakistan, we've got no right to tell Pakistan what to do with their country. They said that when they kicked us out after Empire. Conversely, we've got no obligation to Pakistan now either, alright? Why are we funding like birth control in Pakistan? Why are we accepting asylum seekers from Pakistan when they are deporting asylum seekers or refugees back to Afghanistan? I'd be asking these questions. I wouldn't be accepting a single asylum seeker from Pakistan and a single asylum seeker from Afghanistan, especially ones that have been rejected in safe European Western nations. It just wouldn't be happening. This is the logic you need to follow. You need to say, right, if an asylum seeker's already been in a European country and they've rejected them, that's good enough for me. I'm going to reject them as well. Then you can look at the Pakistanis. You could say, right, you're deporting people from your safe country to their own country, or the Afghanis, so nobody from Pakistan gets a asylum claim accepted. And the Afghanis, alright? Show us your women and children. Send them over. Maybe we can have a conversation. Maybe. That's my line on the matter. I'm very, very hard-nosed on the matter.
Why did you come on your own, and what about the fact that so many men are coming?
Everybody knows my country is not safe for...
So you say, tell that to Pakistan. Pakistan are deporting Afghanis back to Afghanistan. If it's not safe, why are they allowed to do it?
For us, we have a war, about 15 years we are living in the war. Because of that, just we come here and I just want to leave, and because of that I come here.
So Zia, when you hear a story like that, for example, do you think that someone like Ashraf, despite the fact he's fleeing a war, and there are many wars around the country, in fact, can't take everybody, they shouldn't be able to come?
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about that particular individual story, so
No,
I'll
sure,
comment
I
more
get that.
broadly.
But in terms of the principle,
I think in terms of broad strokes, let me be clear. If you're entering a war zone, it's generally men first. If you're fleeing a war zone, it's generally women and children first. And the vast majority of the people coming to this country via the English Channel illegally are men. That is a statistical fact. And when people talk about language, I don't know what language people are objecting to. I'm dealing with statistics, I'm dealing with data, and I think that's a sensible way to formulate policy. And I think we should use language clearly. I think we should use language accurately.
Okay, but just to be specific, Zia, because the reform policies deport all illegal immigrants in the UK within 5 years. So that would be, I mean, these are real people, that would be someone like you.
No shit, of course it would. Perfectly reasonable policy. Look at what Trump's doing in America. There was a single incident regarding an Afghan migrant in the United States, which, for the record, is a larger country than Britain, and that's enough to pause all third world migration or illegal migration into the United States. That's what you need to do. It's as simple as. It's like when you was a child, okay, and you was in primary school, and you used to have one or two turnaways, and they always used to play up in the class. And there was a collective punishment for the entire class. Why? Because the one or two bad eggs or bad apples spoil it for everybody. Where's this common sense gone? You know what I mean? Where is this common sense gone?
And that's what you're saying, right? Okay.
If you are
Just
in
to
this
be clear.
country illegally, let me be crystal clear. If Nigel Farage is our next Prime Minister, and that's obviously what we're working to deliver, if you're in this country illegally, you will be deported back to the country from which you came. Over 170,000 people have arrived in this country illegally since 2018. Most of that work was done by the Tories, sadly, and that is more people than arrived on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
It is an invasion. The only reason the government hasn't declared it as such is because there's been no declaration of war to say we are being invaded. That is the only reason it is not an invasion in international law, so I believe.
I've used the word invasion before, and people might object to that term, but the dictionary definition of an invasion is an unwanted incursion into a space of land. And I don't know what to describe it. 170,000 people arriving. By the way, what are the countries from which they are coming? They're coming from Syria, they're coming from Afghanistan, they're coming from Iraq, they are coming from Iran. Not countries that have a track record of having Britain's interests at heart.
Okay.
But my most important point, and is one thing that should streamline the asylum system first of all, is normalise our asylum policy with that of continental Europe. If somebody's rejected in France, if somebody's rejected in Germany or Austria or Belgium or the Netherlands, our policy should be blanket identical to these countries. That way, if someone comes over from France and they've already been rejected in France, we can say, well, hold your horses, there's no point. You've already been rejected there, we're going to reject you here. There's literally no point to you making the journey. Alright? That would be the first amendment I would make. Then I'd be putting it to a vote to the British people. I'd be literally saying to the British people, do we want an asylum policy? If we do want an asylum policy, what should that policy look like? Alright? At the moment, you've got the liberal elites. They think they know best. Me and you, the dumb plebs, we don't know anything. We're just bigoted gammons. Remember that. Always remember that's what the Labour Party, that's what the ruling elites think of you. You're bigoted, you're xenophobic, you're racist, you're a flag shagger. You have nothing of value for them. Always remember that. They hold you with contempt, they hold you with disdain. They don't give a flying hoot if you've got to wait 2 months, 3 months, 10 months for an NHS appointment or a referral. They don't care. They want private healthcare. Why would they care? Anyway, I digress. The second clip is the one I really want to talk about. Okay, I've got an issue with Zia Yusuf, which I'll get to later in the video. There's two slight issues, but you've got to work with what you've got, so I'm going to play the second clip now. This is where he takes to task Mike Tapp. He's the Dover MP, so he's got a horse in this race, and he gets called out on his BS, and it's something I've done on this channel quite a lot as well, but it's good to see that Zia's doing it on Question Time.
Okay, Mike, genuine question.
Go.
What percentage of the people who have come here illegally under Labour have been deported?
Look, what's really important...
No, please answer my question.
What's really important
what
is
percentage of those 70,000 have been deported?
50,000 have been deported since we came to power.
Okay, so they use this line all the time. 50,000 have been deported. They're not asylum seekers that have been deported, asylum seekers that have been deported. They are overstays on visas. They are people that have been paid to leave. They are people that are here on study visas, work visas, visiting visas, and they've decided they've overstayed, and there's no enforcement mechanism to actually get them to be, go. So we're paying them to leave. We're asking them nicely to leave. We're being very, very British about it. Oh, please, beg your pardon. Would you mind terribly if you go back to where you came from? We'll give you like £3,000 or £4,000 as well. There's a good chat, pip pip. Like, no, fuck that. Go. And if you don't go, we're going to move you forcibly at gunpoint.
percentage of the 70,000 who have come here illegally.
You can do the
I'll tell
maths
you the
of
answer. See, the Mike
70,000
is pretending to not know, or actually doesn't
really
know.
important
The
Hang on,
answer
hang
is
on.
27.
No one can
The
do
answer is 2,700 people. Just 4% of the people who have arrived here illegally under Keir Starmer's awful government have been deported. That means 96% are still here, so it's no...
Which is exactly what they want to do. They want to say they've deported 50,000 because technically that's true. But they're not telling you how that's made up and what the metrics are. The vast majority of the people, the dinghy divers, the boat people from France that have likely had asylum claims rejected on the continent, are never going anywhere. While we're wedded to the ECHR, the European Convention of Human Rights, the Human Rights Act that was enshrined in British law in 1998, I'm going to keep on flogging these hobby horses. They need to go. We've done very, very well from 1066 all the way up to 1998 without these. I'm sure we'll be fine without them. I'm pretty sure of that.
Coincidence that these people are streaming across the channel on a daily basis. Britain is a soft touch, and what Labour has done is poured gasoline on a fire that the Tories created. It is totally unfair on British people, and by the way, I include legal migrants within that equation. It is totally unfair. People are furious about it, and for you to sit here and gaslight people with fake numbers, which the Home Office does, Shabana Mahmood does time and again, I think is totally unacceptable.
So we'll leave this one here.
To British people's intelligence.
So we'll leave that one there. So what do you think of these two clips? I think Zia Yusuf was on fine form today, and he is promoting my party, Reform UK, and he's making the pertinent points that we need to be making in national television. Now, my issues, obviously, with Zia Yusuf are the whole Rupert Lowe debacle. I am a Reform voter, a Reform member, but I'm also a member of Restore Britain, and I was very much Team Rupert Lowe over that whole debacle. It was an unforced error. I think it shouldn't have happened, and they should have discussed it behind closed doors like men and just dealt with it that way. That's my first issue with Zia Yusuf. The second issue is something that I see an awful lot. You can't put someone like me on TV talking about illegal migration on the BBC because I'm white, because I am a white man and I've got a problem with people that do not look like me coming into the United Kingdom and claiming asylum. That does not make me racist. It's not a racist argument. This is what the left love to do, and this is what the left always do. They will just give you a broad stroke and say, right, you're a racist because you don't like this. Not true. I've got no problem with the refugees from Hong Kong. They're not white. But the biggest issue is, even if it was about skin colour, that in of itself shouldn't preclude the conversation. This is what a lot of people, when they want to make these arguments, do. They'll put a person of colour on the TV to argue that point for them. It's like plot armour. They're doing it to try and say, right, well, you can't call him racist because he's the same colour as the people that he wants out of the country. I don't like it. I think that's lazy, and I think we need to move past it. There's more important things at stake here. Now, you let me know. Do you think the reason Labour is running scared and they're trying to conflate data and information is because now they're currently polling at about 14% in the polls, and that's why they're cancelling elections, cancelling jury trials, cancelling everything in the name of democracy, because they know that this is the last Labour government this country will ever see. Now, if you like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next one later on today. Have a good day.